In 2001, a cable television network known as Sci-Fi, and then later known as Sci-Fi, would embark on a journey of both epic and cringeworthy proportions. They would start production of original science fiction movies on an unprecedented scale, spending millions, well, more like thousands of dollars, to produce hundreds of B-rate science fiction and horror films. In 1 year, in 2008, they would churn out an impressive 30 movies in just 1 year, which is quite the achievement, and also equally as scary considering how hastily these films were probably put together.
Today, we start our journey ourselves as we sit down and watch these films, giving both our initial reactions to the film as well as a quick synopsis. The first item on our list, though, is Yeti, Curse of the Snow Demon, released in 2008 and starring lead actor Mark Menard, which you might recall from Lost as the character Montan, and Carly Pope, the lead actress who also starred in the TV series Arrow as Susan Williams. Well, it's more about a killer mountain Yeti. Not to miss that plot point.
We start in the past, in 1972, and here we meet three characters who will have no significance in the movie moving forward. The Sherpa guide points toward the cave and says demon in Nepali.
Raksha?
I think he meant to say Yeti, but whatever. Faramir and his stalwart enter the cave in some random attempt to hunt the creature for revenge. Or some unbeknownst and never explained reason, really. The David Wilhelm lookalike confronts the Yeti as he tries to shoot him, only to have his entire gun free solid right before him. Forced to retreat from the beast, he immediately gets lost just by turning around, and ends up being a mid-afternoon snack for our Yeti friend. And you may wonder what the relevance of the scene is. Well, it's none. It's completely pointless.
We are then introduced to the present day, where you see a plane contains our main dish. Cast. It is revealed that the plane is full of an American football college team on their way from India to Japan, flying over the Himalayan mountains in Nepal. Fun fact, most commercial airline flights will not fly directly over the Himalayas due to average mountain height of 10,000 feet. If an airplane is in distress or has to reduce cabin pressure, they are required to drop below 10,000 feet. You can see why this would be a bad idea.
Here, we're introduced to our main protags of the film, and one Peyton Elway.
Prettiest darn team manager in ACC history.
An amalgamation of Peyton Manning and John Elway, which means his quarterback DNA strands have got to be absolutely stacked. We also meet his love interest, Sarah, who's the football's team manager, along with Coach Bill Belichick, Sad Soul Patch Man, another random girl that kind of looks like Jonathan Davis, a Power Ranger, Chubbs, and someone who can only be described as a fusion between a young Mark Hamill and Tobey Maguire.
A few conversations take place. None of them really matter throughout the film, except for the jab at Chubbs for having stashed food because, he's Chubbs. Ha 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 ha. As for the rest of the people on the plane, don't get used to them. Don't get used to them. Why? Yeah, that's why. The plane crashes. Surprise!
After the crash, the survivors spread out to see who else may survive. They find the coach banged up from the crash, so it's up to the star quarterback to start calling some audibles. They find one of the pilots is dead, and the other one is barely alive. But more importantly, Chubbs didn't make it. Somehow, the guy in the bathroom survived, but not Chubbs. This movie is rigged. The living pilot tells them that there's a radio in the tail of the plane that broke off during mid-flight. So the team gather up, and it's up to the Soul Man and linebacker number 85 of the University State College of Maryland, USA, to hike out in the middle of the woods and find it. We also get to meet the rescue team, though, be coming to advance the plot a little bit later on, and some of the best acting this side of the Indian border.
Eric! No, Eric!
The only way that act to be more believable if she cried like this.
Meanwhile, the gang tend to make their first fire. Even though not 1 hour ago, there were 3 small fires already, just spread throughout the crash, but yeah, whatever. Sarah suggests using alcohol that someone found as accelerant for the fire. Fun fact, only alcohol over 100 proof will ignite fast enough to make a substantial flame. Though we did this experiment on our own to see if this was true.
Ooh, that's a lot.
There we go. Is it burning? Oh, it is a little bit.
A little bit of heat.
But it doesn't go whoosh like it did.
No, it definitely take off like gasoline would.
Yeah.
Color me impressed though. It does still light.
Yeah.
Back with the Soul Man in 85, they end up finding the radio, but can't get a signal through. Following a trail of blood and drag marks, which is genius, they stumble upon a cave. Going further inside, they stumble upon the true star of the film, the Yeti. The cave must have some supernatural qualities to it, because they immediately get lost, just like the guy at the beginning of the film. They run further into the cave and get cornered. The Soul Man makes it out, but he's unable to help our star linebacker as he unfortunately gets cut from the team.
We then transition back to the plane, where Coach Bill Belichick is giving the star quarterback the best pep talk he's ever given. And before he realizes he has to face the Giants at a Super Bowl again, he decides it's just easier to die. During the night, Sarah finds the Yeti checking out some sweet kicks and jogs off one of the corpses, into the woods. Soul Man is also trying to climb a steep cliff face inside the cave to escape. Somewhat losing his backpack in between takes, and instead tying the radio to his leg, so bonus points, I guess? But he falls and hurts his other leg in the process.
The next morning, the gang find a flare gun that'll come in handy later. They huddle around the fire and talk about staying or leaving. Toby Hamill gets confrontational with Tom Brady about who the true leader is, but Tom shuts him up by showing off his 7 championship Super Bowl rings. They vote to stay. Soul Man gets even more ingenious with his friend's arm, leg, stint, contraption thing? Bonus points? And this time he breaks free of the cave prison, only to be immediately spotted by the Uruk-hai orc himself. Soul Man, not wanting to be converted to the Dark Lord's army, decides to hurl himself down the mountain to get away. Which ends up working. Also, it's fun to note that in multiple shots in this scene, it shows the Yeti in 3 different states of condition on his suit. Most notably the one with a gunshot wound to the chest. Way to spoil the movie!
Back at camp, Mr. and Mrs. Tom Brady go rabbit hunting, bagging their first real meal other than alcohol and energy bars and days. They cook it over a fire and... Wait, is that a chicken? When did they get a fully cooked Walmart brand chicken? Anywho, throughout the scenes we are shown the rescue team taking their sweet time getting up the mountain in clear sky conditions where, helicopter could go. Make the rescue a whole lot faster.
The next morning, and collusion begins, as Toby Hamill tries to get the Red Ranger to side with him on difficult topics that will soon arise. As hunger strikes deep, they argue over if cannibalism is the only option left, which after much sitting around and staring at the ground, they agree, and resort to eating cube spam they probably found in a suitcase, because that is definitely not human flesh. Jonathan Davis, who had refused to eat the stolen green, decides to sneak out in the night and burn the remaining bodies, saying,
"We're no better than whatever's out there if we continue to eat these bodies. Or worse, let them be dragged off to God knows where."
Which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, you just ate Walmart chicken. I'm pretty sure that makes you the animal.
As the night progresses, they're awakened by a noise, and Toby gets to try out his new gun, hitting the Yeti right in the eye.
Got the son of a gun.
Oh, it was Soul Man. Oh, tonight, the night that soul died. Anyway, it's action time, and the Yeti is pissed that his DoorDash order was burnt and he can't get a refund, so he decides to speak to the manager. Everyone but Bathroom Boy and Movie Girl 3 run out and start formulating a plan. It's not long before the duo meet their fate through a very Mortal Kombat-esque finishers. Finish him.
A small battle ensues, and it's here that we learn the true power of the Yeti. Because when he becomes CGI, he becomes stronger, faster, better than he was before. But when he's a guy in a suit, he just barely moved through ankle-high snow. The gang try to burn the Yeti, but it's his highly evolved state that he's learned the power of stop, drop, and roll. The Yeti picks up and runs away with Mrs. Brady, and the gang are left to wait until the morning to figure out what to do.
Morning arrives, and with it brings the Paw Patrol, Power Rangers, Rescue Rangers. Tom Brady convinces everyone they can't go home until they rescue his wife, which the Yeti stole, because all he wanted was a good night snuggle buddy. So cute. We also learned that at this time there are in fact 2. Yeah, that's right, count them 2 Yetis. The gang set a trap, a la Scooby-Doo style, by building a pit with a bunch of spikes and a pencil? Alright, so they get the girl, jump the pit, and shoot the Yetis down into the spikes. Hey, it worked! Perfect! But wait! They fired the gun up in the mountains, not knowing how acoustics work, and trigger some stock footage of an avalanche, barely making out by hiding behind a small rock wall.
With the Yetis gone, the gang decides now a good time to leave. But surprise! The kill count in this movie just wasn't quite high enough yet, so the Yeti comes back from the grave. After a quick break to take a piss and eat some chocolate, because who wouldn't want to do that, the Yeti appears to get his revenge. Toby Hamill decides to split the party. You never split the party! And is the first sacrifice to the Yeti's rage. The Yeti, thinking quick, uses a meat shield and blocks some of the oncoming gunfire, and practices his inner Gordon Ramsay.
What are you?
An idiot sandwich.
Rescue Ranger number 2 ain't happy with this, and proceeds to unload his 9mm into the Yeti's bitch ass. But much like 50 Cent, the Yeti don't play that game, and he proceeds to rip off the leg and beat him to death with it.
Hey, come on, go!
Which is where we got this lovely poster design from. In stores. Not yet.
After a brief helicopter pickup call, our remaining survivors reach a dead end. Tom Brady, not assigning his time to switch from quarterback to defensive lineman, sacks the Yeti for a 10-yard loss. As Tom dangles off the cliff, using his inhuman display of one-arm antics, the gang uses a rock and a chain and... Take a step back here. What chain from where? Is that his wallet chain? They proceed to spear the Yeti like a trout and loosely tie the chain to a rock and shove it off the cliff. Thus, the movie is over. The Yeti is finally killed off. The gang is saved. And Japan wins on technicality. Hey, look, this old man's still alive.
You gotta be kidding me.
So that was Yeti.
Yeah, a movie that I quote a lot that you can now get reference to.
Yeah, our poster up on the wall.
Yeah.
I think you quoted back in Spyro, one of the Spyro episodes. Yep. If we have to break it down, we got a couple scores to go over, which will give our overall score of how we felt the movie was.
Yep.
You know, based upon IMDb, our entertainment score, continuity. Yeah, let's go over it real quick.
Okay, first, I'll start off with the IMDb score. Now, on the internet, it gave a 3.3. But since we don't deal with our little halves and points and everything, we're going with a whole number. Let's take that 0.3, smack it out of here, give it a 3.
Next up is the fact check. Now, throughout the movie, we go through and we check to see if anything like correlates to the real world, if actually they're speaking real facts or if it's just made up crap. We do a list. We have a separate video that we're going to be putting up with this. That'll be us just watching the raw film, like our first take of it. And throughout that, you'll hear us talking about different things. We write it down. So we went through all the facts. We picked out 10, and it got 7 of those 10 correct. So we're going to give the fact check a 7 out of 10.
Now, these two scores will always be the same. There's no conflicting on these ones. These will always be set together. Now, this is where they start to differ. Entertainment, I gave it an 8 out of 10.
And I only gave it a 4. I wasn't that impressed.
Shame. Next is Sci-Fi Original. I gave it a 7.
I actually gave it an 8. I felt it was, there's not too many Yeti movies. Bigfoot, yes, but Yeti, no.
Continuity. I give it a 3.
I give it a 5.
His score's always wrong, mine always right.
Yeah, that's basically how it goes. Well, you own most of these movies. Like, you're the collector.
Yes,
I'm
true.
just along for the ride. I mean, we both watched them back in the day. Like, back when they showed up on Sci-Fi.
Yeah.
And how they progressively got worse.
Combined for overall score of mine is a 6 out of 10.
And I give it a 5 out of 10. Perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
Well, we'll see you next time. If you make it.
Ooh, that's a lot.
We got you enough for they can actually see it.
Now, what if it does go up?
All I can do with this, you got any matches? I can't get the angle down.
Yeah.